Good afternoon, Council. I'd like to call this committee of the whole meeting of July 16th, 2026 to order for the adoption of the agenda. Somebody want to make that motion for me? Councilor Devlin, seconded by Councilor Orlando. All in favor? Motion is carried. Adoption of the minutes of the regular committee of the whole of June 11th. Somebody want to make that motion? Councilor Devlin, Councilor Staples. All in favor? Motion's carried. Any business arising from those committee of the whole minutes? Seeing none, we're going to go right into 8A, staff reports. Community Economic Development Feasibility Study, West Side Road. Ms. Beckler, I'll turn it over to you to move us forward, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Community Economic Investment Feasibility Study for West Side Road Parcel 1 for the City of Revelstoke has been funded by the Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Investment Program. The Economic Diversification Stream. If that's not a mouthful, there you go. So it was originally written back in 2024 by former Director Ryan Watmow. I would like to take a moment to thank Dan Cormers at the province for helping us work through the following project and providing guidance and guardrails on the original scope and staying on track. I think she's online watching today. There was also economic opportunity funds for $12,500 that were awarded to the project in 2025. So the history behind this project is initially there were two parcels of Crown land on West Side Road, a southern and northern parcel. In 2028, in response to a proposal from Citation Networks to develop a data center, City Council of the time endorsed in principle that Crown land on West Side Road be established as a Section 16 map reserve with the intent of attracting and developing tech development to Revelstoke. As a result, on January 13th, 2009, a Section 16 map reserve was established by the Ministry of Forests, Lands, and Natural Resource Operations. In 2016, following an application from Revelstoke Sand and Gravel, the province replaced the existing Section 16 reserve with a Section 17 land reserve, removing 8.1 hectares from the southern parcel while maintaining the northern parcel as a reserve. The change was intended to support future technology related to development opportunities. Fast forward to where we are now, our timeline brings to MXD, who was hired in late 2025 to conduct a community economic investment feasibility study for Parcel 1 on West Side Road. So the EDC has two primary goals. So a why behind pursuing this project. The first being economic diversification, reducing the city's dependence on forestry, rail, and tourism through the development of new employment sectors that include industrial clean technology, data infrastructure, agro/food greenhouse. That broadens the community economic base and increases long-term resilience in our community. Number two, increase municipal revenues. The city faces ongoing fiscal pressure and constraints on our tax base. The Section 17 land represents a rare opportunity to create a new self-sustaining source of property tax revenue that could be a meaningful contribution to the city's finances over the long term. So please note that this is not an overnight process. The study identifies opportunities for consideration. This is not a committed set of plans. This is a snapshot in time of where the 140 acres sits on West Side Road and its current economic climate. It's going to be a cross-department exercise if we move forward with this. So there will be a need for extensive collaboration. The MXD team has answered these questions well. The report is thorough, well-structured, and provides the city with a credible foundation for future discussions with the province and other stakeholders. The study evaluated the sites through market analysis, stakeholder engagement, site and environmental investigations, and financial feasibility modeling. Key findings include the opportunities are real, the site has genuine competitive advantages, and constraints are real but manageable. So that's my synopsis leading into MXD's presentation. If Mayor and Council would agree, I'm going to ask that you just hold your questions until the end of the MXD presentation, and then we'll open up the floor to the professionals and city staff before we move into recommendations.
All right, thanks, Ms. Beckler.
All right.
MXD, who's going to start speaking to your group, please?
It'll be myself, pleasure, on behalf of the consulting MXD, the consulting team. I'm Andrew Fain, Vice President with MXD, and I have my colleagues on the line as well, Development Planner Andrew Figueredo with MXD, and then our sub-consultant Eric Aderneck with ESA Consulting, an industrial lands expert. And then also on our team, not in the meeting today, though, but we also had local engineering firm as well as an environmental firm, Headwaters Consulting as well, advising throughout the project. I will be sharing my screen to bring up the presentation. So if you just bear with me for 1 second here, I'll make sure that it comes up here. Oh. There we go. And can I just get a confirmation from the room that it's being shared up on the screen?
Got it, Andrew. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. So as Michelle had mentioned, conducting the West Side Road Section 17 feasibility study really was to look and strengthen the city's long-term fiscal base and broaden the economic positioning of the city. Of course, looking at the RMR and rail and forestry industries that create the base currently for Revelstoke. It's how do you diversify the employment throughout the city, but also still take into factor the challenges that the city faces, say from a housing perspective as well. So it's not just about creating new types of employment, but the right types of employment that don't put further stressors on the city as well, but do increase the tax assessment base. So the purpose of the study was to look through various land use scenarios, as had been mentioned, through market analysis, speaking with key stakeholders and understanding that foundation that'll provide the city, if they were to move forward with the province of acquiring the land, that foundational basis to move forward in terms of negotiations, and think about the various aspects and avenues required from a planning, engagement, infrastructure, and partnership coordination standpoint. I won't go into all these pieces here, but this was the scope of work that our team had conducted. So it was a very thorough study that we kicked off just before the Christmas holidays. So we've been working on it for give or take 7 months now. The assignment, working hand in hand with city administration and staff throughout the process, as well as local stakeholders, to really understand the foundational basis of the site from a topographical, environmental, and physical perspective, but then also looking at the quantitative factors of the market and financial capabilities of the site, coming up with a wide variety of scenarios, which were then run through with the city, looked at the pros and cons of all the potential scenarios, and landed on an optimal scenario to move forward with. We put through a preliminary financial analysis and economic impact analysis, which we'll show you today, as well as the infrastructure recommendation that would be required for this to be put forth, and an implementation plan for city staff to understand the next steps required to put this forward. So just for everyone's knowledge, the West Side Road site, approximately 140 acres of crown land just to the west of the Revelstoke Dam, with access off West Side, primary access off West Side Road. You can see it's the parcel directly east of West Side Road there in the map. Has beautiful viewpoints, but at the same time features some challenges that we'll go through in a moment. Just across basically from the dirt bike trails, Revy Riders, close in proximity to Glacier House Resort. And then currently along West Side Road is primarily a lot of environmentally protected areas, along with some rural residential and light industrial type uses. Under the current official community plan and zoning bylaws, the land use designation is currently just industrial, with the surrounding areas as natural environment and commercial type areas. However, as noted in the introduction a while back, the OCP section 4.514 suggested exploring the feasibility for a potential technology park. In terms of this, we did undertake this assignment as well to understand what those opportunities were for technology park, and we'll identify that as well, especially from a data and information of things type perspective. And then you could see the existing zoning being there's three various zonings in terms of I3, the high impact zone, a small portion of it. It's primarily I5 rural recreation, natural resource, and E1 environmental and rural recreation zones. So a rezoning, of course, would be required to accommodate certain types of development if the city were to proceed forward in terms of the acquisition of the Crown property. As mentioned, in terms of the existing conditions, a lot was looked into in terms of the potential development opportunities across a topography that you can see here on the image in terms of slope structures. And what we came away is that there were several ridges that the consulting team had to look at and deal with. Along West Side Road, there's what we call the upper north bench that generally is a development pod created. There's the south bench on the south side of the property, and then there's a ridge that separates the south bench from what we call kind of the lower north bench. So three primary development pods that started to kind of frame up the various scenarios in terms of the development typologies and land uses that could be laid out on terms of this site and where development could actually go. This wasn't a master planning exercise where we were just to place down land uses, but it's really from a technical standpoint to understand the existing conditions that we were working on within the feasibility study. I should note, I apologize, I should note as well that there are large transmission right-of-way lines, power lines that go right along the southern edge of the boundary. If I'm sure everyone's driven up West Side Road there. So that is a constraint to think about when we were placing land uses as well, of those transmission lines and the types of uses that could go in close proximity to them. We conducted a thorough stakeholder engagement process through a wide variety of groups. This includes the local business community, city administration and staff, as well as speaking with various end user tenants and developers local in the area, speaking even with representative from RMR, and also First Nations groups, which was represented by the Indigenous Friendship Society of Revelstoke, and speaking with them, which was a very interesting, we obtained very interesting feedback in terms of their thought process of how to move forward with Indigenous engagement if the city were to proceed ahead with the province in terms of acquisition of the property. Out of that, we took copious and copious amounts of notes out of all our stakeholder consultation, but came up with 6 primary themes, as you can see here on the left. The number one piece I think everyone agreed with, no matter which stakeholder we spoke with, was economic diversification, but also the many industrial businesses need land in a wide variety of spaces that availability just isn't there. And we've heard anecdotally from a wide variety of stakeholders that businesses had moved out to various other municipalities in the surrounding region because they couldn't find the right spaces in Revelstoke to expand their business proceedings. There was the idea to consider housing, servicing, and workforce constraints. Obviously, just like many municipalities throughout British Columbia, Revelstoke is in a housing crunch and prices have gone up exponentially in recent years. So any employment uses that are added into Revelstoke have to have the considerations that people do move here, they need to live somewhere as well. Servicing was a big one. Obviously, this entire site is currently unserviced and there's no sanitary currently or water availability on the property. So it is a consideration that, of course, not bringing sanitary or services all the way up West Side Road, which would be a very costly endeavor. How can on-site servicing be implemented to ensure that the site is developed, but in a financially responsible way? Balancing the current tourism and outdoor recreation market was another theme that we've spoken with stakeholders. The environmental Indigenous considerations throughout the process, which we'll touch upon shortly. And then a big one that I think a lot of people echoed as well is not just to create a plan for creating a plan, but create a realistic implementation pathway as well. What are those, what's the scenario and what are those next steps that can actually make this a reality if the city were to proceed ahead? There was a lot of text that we tried to sum up here, but these were really again, the key takeaways and implications out of our market and economic analysis for the West Side Road Section 17 site. So this is when we conducted our demographic, economic, and market analysis for just the city and the region as a whole. Many of these, I'm sure, and I'll touch upon them very briefly because I'm sure many of them are ones that you already know very well, being mayor and council. The significant housing supply and affordability constraints, which is a significant barrier to workforce attraction and the economic growth of the city and the region. Tourism demand continues to support accommodation development opportunities. And of course, the new hotel, I believe, has opened or is soon to be opening at RMR as well. Recreational outdoor tourism assets remain the key drivers for economic activity and visitation, especially in recent years. However, the regional infrastructure, this really unique environment that Revelstoke's in, of course, being along Highway 1, but being next to the Revelstoke Dam and having fiber telecommunications presence as well, presents very interesting, unique development opportunities for end user tenants from a business locational advantage situation that we want to consider. The seasonality in terms of operational challenges from a recreational standpoint, in terms of commercial and employment use, especially from a service industry perspective. Although those windows where the seasons seem to blend all together, it seems that Revelstoke is becoming much more of a four-season visitation destination, at least for operations from tourism. It was interesting from a lot of stakeholders, West Side lands not being perceived as part of Revelstoke and seen out of the way because it's not close in proximity to the downtown core. It is about a 10-minute drive, but it's just the psychological difference of thinking, yes, you have to cross to the west side, northwest of Revelstoke, and then take West Side Road up for many kilometers. So it's for certain residents, they'd never been to that part of the municipality, and they just see it as an out-of-the-way location if we were to do anything that would be an amenity to the city, I suppose. And then a constrained land supply within Revelstoke as a whole makes it a very strategically located site because there's not a lot of room for employment uses left in Revelstoke. The current industrial area is primarily built out. There's that definite potential that people have noted off of that, and that came out of our research as well. So as I'd mentioned, we went through 4 or 5 different scenarios, and this is what we landed on. And I should preclude this, as you see 2 maps here on the left and the right side, is we came up with an interim scenario because we understand this is going to take a long time to build out. And there's been the discussions, as you can see here, of data centers. And it was a discussion that has its advantages, but also its critics in terms of its location, just like we read all the time in the news now and can hear in terms of the positive and negative benefits of data centers. But it's a long process currently within BC to obtain approval from BC Hydro, as well as the ability to construct a data center warehouse. So if the city were to proceed ahead with that acquisition of the West Side Road Section 17 lands, we want to provide opportunities for quick win fiscal opportunities and a tax base in our interim scenario until what we call the ultimate scenario is built out. So in the interim scenario, as you can see in this map on the left side here, we're looking at a wide variety of uses that take advantage of the various benches that we were showing in the topographical map of a biker's campground and additional trails that build off of Revy Riders on the very north side there. Of course, Revy Riders you see just off the map here in terms of their dirt bike trails. We met with them and they've already noted that I suppose they informally use some of these lands already in terms of recreational expansion for dirt biking. So to formalize it more and provide some expansion lands for Revy Riders, but also having some type of recreational campground opportunity that, of course, doesn't require full servicing or anything as such would be an easy and quick win available. Dry industrial type uses next to that as well. Again, very low servicing availability for outdoor storage, general assembly type uses, and the like. And then on the southern benches, again, more dry industrial uses such as RV trailer lots, recreational vehicle storage, materials yards, especially for lumber and various other construction items, some light industrial space that would be in more structured buildings. And then finally, with the beautiful views overlooking the dam and the river, the idea of a festival fairground, which is basically, again, not requiring any permanent servicing or anything of such, could be used then for various celebrations, not only used by the city, but also could then be like rented out for various concerts or various festivals that could be done by private operators as well that would provide revenue to the city. As well, on top of that is for the festival fairgrounds, it could just basically left almost as fallow in terms of where the current land is. There's quite a lot of open areas, so there wouldn't have to, aside from doing a pay or a gravel lot, there wouldn't have to be much infrastructure put into that site as well. In the ultimate scenario, as you could see, and this would be down a longer term play, if the city were to go ahead with a data center warehouse of how many, is it 5 megawatts? I'd have to ask for
50.
Thank you, Andrew. 50 megawatt data center that would then locate in close proximity, as we've been notified by BC Hydro, as close as possible to the transmission station for the dam to connect into. So BC Hydro gave a lot of interesting and good feedback in terms of the potential co-location of a data center warehouse with the dam. And then off of that, as well as we've seen lots of case study examples in recent times with data center warehouses, the ability then to build off and create agricultural greenhouses to use the in a cyclical closed loop fashion, use the heat that's generated by the data center warehouses and potential water for the greenhouses. So we've seen some really interesting ecological closed loop systems that have been implemented throughout North America and Europe in terms of that. So something to explore. So that's the ultimate scenario. So it keeps the majority of uses there, but if a data center warehouse were to locate on the land, it would be located in as close proximity to the dam as possible, which reduces the amount of servicing requirements and would only remove some of the material or lay down yards, dry industrial type uses that would be located there. We conducted a preliminary financial analysis to understand what the value of the project is and whether it's financially feasible to go ahead, which we did note that it is feasible. Does have I should note as well, this is at the ultimate scenario. So this is if a data center was identified and developed out, a value of over $300 million for the entire 140-acre site, cost of $273 million, including servicing and infrastructure. So potentially, if viewed it from a developer's perspective, it would provide profit of 12% or 27 million, which is usually right now developers are looking in that 8 to 12% range. So it's on the higher end of the acceptable range for a development standpoint. The economic impact summary, again, we looked at the ultimate scenario to see what those economic impacts. MXD uses the industry standard RIMS2 modeling software to calculate economic impacts, and then also used local British Columbia multipliers that are taken from the federal government to input into the model to produce the economic impacts out of the ultimate scenario. In this perspective, 265 million of total construction investment. So that's just in the construction phase based on goods and labor and the like. Supporting 292 ongoing annual jobs. So that's after all the development would be built out. It would support nearly 300 jobs across a wide variety of land uses. There'd be generally 105 million in annual economic output within the Revelstoke area and its surrounding communities. And then finally, I'm sure one that everyone's interested in is approximately 3.21 million in annual property tax revenue using 2026 mill rates that we were discussing and got approved through from your financial team at the city as well. So a large portion of that, of course, is coming from the data center in terms of the annual property tax revenue. If the city were not to proceed ahead with the data center and was more focused on the dry industrial and recreational type uses, that of course would be a lower amount in terms of the annual property tax, but still a significant amount to proceed forward with nonetheless. So the land acquisition options in terms of if moving ahead with Section 17 and working with the province on this would be there's various ways to go about doing it, and something that would require more further exploration beyond this feasibility study, which is using the Section 17 designation applied under the industrial policy for Crown lands. The Section 17 designation could be amended through the province because right now it's entitled, or not entitled, but it's designated as a technology park. So if it's not viewed technically as a technology park, that it could be amended, the section before negotiations. The city can conduct a head lease with authority to sublease individual parcels from the province, or the city could acquire lands through the community institutional program. So this would be to reach out to the local provincial office and to identify which of the paths would be the most optimal to move forward through for the city, but also for the province and how they would see fit as well. So the next steps required after the feasibility study are conducted would be a next phase package, creating a more refined site plan, a full servicing strategy to ensure that the site could be serviced appropriately for the types of uses, refined cost assumptions. A big one is Indigenous engagement. It was noted by the Indigenous Engagement Friendship Society that of Revelstoke that they would like to see a door knocking campaign by the city with the various First Nation Indigenous groups in the region as potential partners in this project, or to gauge at the very least interest in as potential partners in this project. So that would have to be undertaken, creating a business plan, a financing package for potential purchase, and then the implementation roadmap as well would all be the next steps if they were to proceed. And then finally, I believe last slide is items for consideration moving forward as well that we would advise staff to consider to put forth in terms of council. Initiating a formal pre-application discussion, as mentioned, with Front Counter BC and their local office to understand the various disposition pathways and potential expectations required by the province for the disposition of this property through Section 17 from the province to Revelstoke, the outreach to relevant provincial ministries in terms of their support. BC Hydro did note their call to power for data centers. It closed back in January of this year. They will be hopefully undertaking another call for power in approximately 2 to 3 years from now. However, in the meantime, they did note that they can create either a paid feasibility or conceptual services review to confirm whether transmission scale power is available to allow for a data center on the property. So that is something that they noted that they would work hand in hand with the city with. And then, as mentioned, the initiating a relationship-based Indigenous engagement process to understand their priorities, potential participation, consent, and support of the project. That is MXD's presentation, and then myself, Andrew Figueredo, and Eric Aderneck are happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Council, any questions first of Ms. Beckler and then to the MXP team? Councilor Cherry?
Thanks. Can you elaborate more on, you mentioned that there'd be 50 megawatts of power needed for a data center. I was under the understanding that BC Hydro wouldn't have power available for something like that. Through conversation with them and our staff, that everything that they're doing with Gen 6 and the current upgrades to the facility, to the dam, was already pre-allocated.
I can take it.
For your answer, could you stop the screen sharing so that we can see you?
Of course, sir. Of course, sir.
Thank you.
course, Mayor. I'll pass that to Eric Adernack in a moment, but just to answer that is, there was no indication, at least in our conversations with BC Hydro when we spoke with them during the springtime, in terms of any challenges in regards to that. However, at the same time, their representative who had done a lot of work in the Revelstoke region, she did note that it's on a case-by-case basis currently, and that's why they had held the call for power to review certain submissions and applications in terms of the requirements of power for data centers. So while there was no indication from her that that would be a challenge, there of course is a limited supply that Hydro currently is working within in terms of availability of power. Eric Adernack, I also pass it over to you to further that question.
Thank you. Through the chair, I can just supplement that by saying our preliminary conversations with Hydro were that this is entirely a provincial grid network aspect. So although the dam is right there and there's some logical connections and there's a line running through it, they have to consider the entire system. There's normally sort of a pre-application and inquiry, a couple levels of it potentially, to really test out the interconnection location, how the major power consumer, which in some cases could be a mine or something else. I'm not suggesting that here, but in other parts of the province, and how that as a data center would be connected here. As Andrew was making reference, the province late last year, earlier this year, changed some of their policies. So for example, Bitmine mining is right off the table, but there's a call for powers for an unlimited sort of envelope for data centers. There is other information in the report about the attributes of data centers, not just the power they need, the economic aspects of it, and various things that are known.
Councilor Chair, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just to follow up, appreciate that answer, of course. In a hypothetical scenario, if the data center and the power required for weren't going to be an applicable use in the future, do you have any suggestions on what that section of land could be used for with significantly less power consumption?
Well, I would answer, Andrew can elaborate too. We do have a sort of phase 1, phase 2 layout. I would see light industrial or perhaps even dry industrial, depending on the servicing program for the area, which is already proposed on a notable amount of the lands being simply applicable to these lands as well. And importantly, the data center would be, if it were to be proposed, would be associated with district energy and a greenhouse facility to use that heat. So those are really a package of 3 components together that are all there or all not there, and in their absence, light industrial would seem most logical. The absorption period would have to be considered. With more supply, perhaps the timeline would be extended.
Okay, thank you.
Any other councilors with questions? Councilor Palmer?
Thank you, Mayor Scholes. To the team, just in general, next, I know there was some possibly additional feasibility studies are suggested, but I'm wondering, sir, from and it's maybe a question you have for us, as what's the next sort of political steps, in view of where we're at. So any specific ideas, not the things that are, well, maybe indirectly with at the end of your presentation, you had a few things that could be done, but how do you see this moving on? And maybe that's very much helpful.
Absolutely, I can step in, Your Worship. So conclusions are that the land is held under Section 17 conditional withdrawal. No formal discussion with the province has yet to occur. Most important near interim step is for city administration to initiate the pre-application conversation with the province. The provincial ministries to understand the current status of the designation, available disposition pathways, valuations, and expectation. Until this is clarified, the city can't really advance with acquisition, investment attraction, or implementation of planning. Does that?
I think that's good for now. Yeah, I definitely have just sort of saying, okay, what do we do with this at this particular from that? Are we advancing this? Do we sort of say, okay, this is great stuff, which it is. It's great information. Thank you for that. And I don't know if you have thoughts on that, Mayor.
I want to lean a little bit. Thanks, Councilor. When we look at this, we're 20 years of keeping this kind of in advance to see where we could go. and move that forward. But the question becomes, what do we have capacity for? And looking at this, I think being able to have a conversation, Ms. Beckley, you can maybe weigh in a little bit more, but having a conversation with the province and saying, what do they expect us to do? How do we have that conversation with them to solidify this land doesn't end up being, if we were to take away section 17, it doesn't end up being a giant ground. And how do we, kind of suggest that there could be better uses for it, knowing full well it's not service. And I won't even guess what Mr. Black would tell me if I said, what's the cost going to be to service this? How many millions of dollars is he going to tell me? And what's our capacity to be able to connect up to our new improved sewage plant? And then where are we going to find water? So I know there's one individual that was drilled out there. He's got a well. I think he went down 250 feet to get great potable water. So the question then becomes, exactly as you've got the questions in here, Ms. Beckler, option 1, option 2, option 3, where do we go from there? So I'm looking at option 1 with caveat, let's not rush to get things done, but let's have a conversation and then see how that conversation goes. Engagement with the nation, not just with the Indigenous Friendship Society, but with the nations directly themselves. So there's going to be 5 or 6 conversations there, and that's going to be, it's going to take its time. So that's kind of where I'm going at that. And I'm interested in what each of you have to say. How do you feel? Councillor Palmer, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Souls. Yeah, for clarity, I think we're on the same page on this. I'm definitely not support in any sense the withdrawal of interest. I think that would be irresponsible of council. And then the alternate direction is kind of a fuzz thing. Of the options presented here, one is the only one that has any merit from my perspective. However, it's fairly undefined as well.
Yep.
And so I guess the question through to staff is, there's a suggestion motion there that a staff report be prepared. Is there a budget implication, or is that using existing resources within the economic development of this
Ms.
time?
Beckler?
Through your mayor, currently we do have funding available still through this study that hasn't been used to its full scope. So project management wise, there is a small piece to move forward. The REDIP grant application is not closed. This project has come in on target for spending, so there is funding available. I would need to work with our finance staff and Director of Precision to define what those numbers exactly are, but we have not spent the full scope of the project to date. So there is room. The REDIP grant doesn't close until March 2027. So if more feasibility work is required, we have that flexibility at this time. A note to council, not that we're trying to work through things too quickly or have timelines, keeping an open REDIP application impedes other applications for other projects. We ran into this with the airport master plan, business and master plan. So just so you are aware, we did try to apply for the capacity grant, but if we have 2 open projects and one's not complete. But just so that you're aware of that in your timelines.
So do you want to follow up? Because
I just wonder what the value for this project of that REDIP grant, what's the value of that?
It was 100K. Yeah.
Thanks.
And where are we at so far? What have we spent?
94.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
just-
94, 95, and then we have a top up because it's an 80-20 split.
Okay.
We have EOF and in-kind staffing contributions to that as well. So I've been working with Jen at the province to go through the full scope of the budget because this was applied for in 2024. So there's some wording and adjustments that need to be done in that final report.
So how do we max out those funds and give us capacity to think about how we're going to move forward.
Through to the mayor to answer that question, I will have to work with Director Precision
Okay.
and the finance team just to make sure that we have that fulsome answer on that.
Yeah, and I'm
And
not-
also with the province, just, I'm not sure how much further we need to go with the feasibility study or what Councillor Palmer is, how much he's looking at, whether we want to keep working with MXD.
So, order of magnitude, how much money is potentially left on the table, right? Both this, the red up and the other funding sources.
Roughly on the table, I would say there's between 10 and 20, depending on
Right.
how you want to structure the final report.
Right.
Well,
I'll listen to others. I have ideas.
Anyone else want to weigh in? Councillor Chair?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's appropriate to invite engineering and planning staff into this conversation, just as this would progress out of CED in the future, would end up in their plate. Do they have any feedback they want to commit at this time? Director
Mr.
Black,
Black,
maybe
any
outside
comments?
of servicing constraints and costs, is there anything else that you foresee being? Yeah.
Through your worship to the council, initial thoughts are the relative distance from the downtown core and access, vehicle trips, car usage. And that is my upfront thoughts. It's a long ways away from the core and how you keep a community efficient with pipe and roads is keeping it compact. So that's one concern. The other obviously is utilities.
Mr. Simon, would you like to weigh in?
Through your worship to Councillor Cherry, and just encourage council to really consider what this looks like at the end product. Is the city going to be in the business of being a landlord and having a head lease and subleasing out to other parties to pursue development, complex partnership agreements, establishment of a new corporation for the city if there's any profit to be made associated with that? This is a massive undertaking, and it would be a line of service that's something the city doesn't currently do. So there will be implications, most definitely with respect to taxation, as well as implications on existing resource capacity. So we just need to think very carefully before we start dedicating staff time and resources, from my perspective, to going down this road as a city-led initiative rather than a developer-led initiative, and certainly echo Director Black's comments. And when you look at the level of investment that would be required to develop this property, is that level of investment more appropriately utilized within existing city boundaries where we have development? Powerhouse Road, Big Eddy. We did an analysis with the last OCP. We're at hovering around 30% utilization rate of our existing industrial areas, right? So our existing industrial areas are underutilized based on the 2022 OCP. That might have changed since then. We will have to do another update in 28, 29, but certainly items for council to consider. This will be a complex undertaking to facilitate development in this part of Revelstoke. And I will mention as well, we run into issues incredibly frequently out at an existing development along West Side Road with respect to fire flows. It has been incredibly challenging for any development out there to meet fire flows, hence why you haven't seen any meaningful development along West Side Road thus far.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Simon, further to that, just with fire flows, we don't have the capacity water-wise to put pipes in the ground, to put hydrants in. How would people service that? Would it be tanks? How would they be able to do that sort of thing? And maybe I should be asking Chief DeRossi that, because he's here in the room, if you don't mind. Chief, could I just impose on you, how would we, if we thought about having anything out there, even a storage area, we would need to have some sort of fire suppression, would we not?
Your Mayor, thank you for the opportunity. I can't speak to the question initially to Mr. Simon on putting pipes in the ground because I take what comes out of the pipes is what really we need. So there are a couple of options in rural water supplies. NP 1142 sets the standards for water supplies in rural and remote areas. So there's some options that landowners can take, and you're right, it's in the form of either dry hydrant to cistern, above ground tanks, or developing out other water sources that would not freeze in our particular situation. I will note that it is 8 kilometers plus to various areas out there, so that's a significant time from the fire station in central Revelstoke to get out there. That is certainly possible. One of the other things that we have to consider is every time we have a large incident on the west side, beyond that, the center of Revelstoke is not protected because all of our crew and apparatus are out there. So ponds, lakes, captured water in the form of either underground cisterns or above ground cisterns, such as we have, are opportunities for fire protection, fire flows out there. And it would depend on what they're building. How large it is and that as well. So if Mr. Simon has any further comment on the original part of your question.
Okay. Mr. Simon, anything further from your perspective?
Through your worship, I'd actually defer to Director Black for any conversations related to pipes in the ground.
Right, back to Mr. Black. I'm seeing this giant circle today. Mr. Black, you're at the bottom of the heap. Everything's coming to you. Any comment?
It's going to be a significant undertaking to service the area. I'm not willing to throw numbers out at this time. I would be very concerned about if it's residential, it's a different usage than industrial. So we can have different fire protection and it does not need to be potable. If there's residential out there, it becomes a much different situation where we have to provide drinking water versus fire protection. Sanitary sewer, the likelihood of connecting that, basically the dam to the sewage treatment plant would require, as the chief mentioned, 8 kilometers of pipe to get to Highway 1. We then have to pump that across the river to connect to one of the existing sewers lift stations. I believe getting pipe across the river would be a significant cost in alone. However, that would also provide the opportunity for the Big Eddy to get off septic.
Right.
So the big picture is looking at this piece in isolation would be, I think, a mistake. That we need to look at this comprehensively and look at the costs overall to the community to figure out what those assets would look like. If it's a local area service, I would suggest that the pricing per unit or for lot or for business would be excessive to service that distance with municipal services. Standalone services, different opportunity, no overnight occupation, it's just daytime visitation. Or for just work, nobody's sleeping out there. We have different requirements. And so smaller, unique systems could be created, and septic likely would also work for some period of time out there. Again, without people living out there, the usage would be different.
So some of the businesses that we have along West Side Road, helicopter companies and some of the gravel companies seem to have like water, sewer. Are they on wells? Are they on septic systems themselves? Is that how they're done at this current time?
I'm unaware of any wells out in that part of the world. The province has directed almost all the municipal or wells used for irrigation or municipal use within the city of Revelstoke to be decommissioned. I believe about 5 or 6 years ago. And so I think there's only 1 or 2 wells left in the community. And I'm assuming that the West Side Road businesses would be hauling those totes, big totes of water.
Okay, thank you.
Something of that nature to provide drinking water for those businesses.
Thank you. So, Ms. Beckler, was this presentation put to the Rose-Logan Area Economic Development Commission?
Yes.
And what was their response?
Their response, they were in favor of option one.
Okay.
They think that it's an opportunity that's a slow burn, as they refer to it. It's a good opportunity. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. They see potential lost revenue to the city if we, disperse the land acquisition to private investment. We would lose control over it. And they see it as an opportunity to, the interim scenario versus the ultimate scenario, you have a phased approach to generate that tax revenue. So they were in favor of a thoughtful, slow process, no immediate answers, abide by the rules, listen to staffing capacity, the cost to do what needs to be done out there. These were all discussed at the table. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for that. If we were to move option one forward, that would be a conversation your department would have with the provincial government as to how they see that transpiring, how that rolls out. And that doesn't bind us to anything. It just gives conversation as to how we can move forward, still keeping things kind of in control from a city's perspective as to the section 17 on that land, correct?
Absolutely correct. So it would just initiate the discussion on the disposition of land, the land use that's available. And we would provide staff with and council a report moving forward, bring it to the table, have a fulsome discussion.
Okay.
Just get answers to what we can do with that section 17 of the province currently. It's been sitting for 18 years.
Councilor Plum.
Yeah, I just have a question on the recommendation. Is there 3 options here? Is there actually 4? Is that first that and that? Is that recommendation and option 1 is any different? Just there's a little bit of fuzziness.
There's a little bit of fuzziness there. I'm confident that these are just the resolutions moving forward with option 1, 2, and 3.
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Yeah,
Mr. Parliament first, and then I'll go to Councilor.
I was gonna say, just with the feedback from staff, I think it might be best to send this back for comment from ECDEV. With what we've heard here from planning and engineering staff. Prior to moving forward with the decision today.
Okay, so let me go to Mr. Parliament because he's rolling over in his grave.
Well said, Councilor Cherry. I have attended EDC meetings, not all of them, but very active EDC. Kudos to the staff working with NXD. I think we have a solid consulting team as well. I was going to suggest the same. Kick it back to EDC, let them take a deeper dive on option 1, come back with some recommendations. Mindful of an election year, it could be the new year before you come back, but I have full confidence in EDC to continue to take a deeper dive on this. They've done a lot of work on this already. So I share that same recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Palmer.
Thank you. Mayor Souls, actually, when we're pulling some of the other department heads, I was thinking the same thing. I've got the note here with Carly. Of course, you're new here, and that's kind of my thought, that this needs a deeper thought from the economic development lens. We were starting to get into the weeds without even knowing what the land is, some of those other areas. So other things will fall through. So I don't know if we need to formalize that, but, and I don't know if our economic development director has any comments as well, since we pulled the others.
This procession.
Good afternoon. I am in favor of whatever direction you guys want. I do think that if the direction to us is to go to the province to have that discussion and take it back to RAEDC and the commission to come back with a more thorough look at what can be done to Councillor Palmer's recommendations, that we are ready to do that. So we've had some conversations about where we could go moving forward, depending on where mayor and council would like to see us go. And we're fully prepared to have those conversations and start that process.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, because I think it's a good project for you to sort of check into, I guess. And one of the questions I have that I don't think may know some, but has there been development knocking on the doors already on this? There have been over the last couple of decades. But a lot of this is around the data center. And so, which of course, there's going to be some, just saying that there's going to be some opposition in principle, but anybody that's using devices, we're all part of that, and where is an appropriate place for a data center. And this may very well be a good place where a lot of places in the world are saying we're scared of that because of impacts. So I'm wondering if people have been knocking on the door, but we've been through a lot of economic development officers, so it might be hard to even know who those individuals were. Nothing, no question in that, Mayor. So that's this is where it's kind of.
Thank you for that. I think this whole section 17 started because there was a developer knocking on our door.
Yeah.
I want to do this sort of thing, and for whatever reason, they went away.
Yeah.
And looking at the project, could be a long haul project. So I definitely, before I yap on, we've got Mr. Parliament has his hand up. So Councillor Staples.
Yeah, and I think just quickly to Councillor Palmer's point, what I'd like to do is invite the Environmental Advisory Committee to weigh in on this, because I think there are some implications to the data center, and they might be able to provide us with a better perspective as to what those implications are. There's always a benefit, but there's also a detriment too. So understand what those are before you proceed, I think is well founded.
Okay. Mr. Parliament.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To your earlier point, when the last proponent came before Revelstoke and looked at a possible data center, they were based out of Seattle. They were fishing, and a lot of data centers are fishing across the world. The two main obstacles that they shared with us, and I believe the reason that they have taken a pause, the two main hurdles are, number one, the whole Section 17 issue and ownership of the lands. Who owns the lands? How do you get approval from the province, et cetera? And the second one is power. And what BC Hydro has told both the city and any proponent is that if you're requesting power, you must engage in what they call a system impact study. And that study could be 100,000, that study could be 2 years. And the system impact study for BC Hydro basically talks about what kind of effect does your project have on the electrical grid. Those are the two main challenges I've been told when I have talked to a couple of these companies looking to locate a data center. So specific to West Side Road and those lands, it's the Section 17 encumbrance and the unknown and the uncertainty of power.
All right,
just FYI.
So, Ms. Beckler.
Through the mayor, I'd just like to let you know that we have had someone, just one in my year, knock on our door. A very small outfit, Canadian outfit, but all of these are going to be deferred to our planning department because it trips a whole set of other questions. So again, coming back to that cross collaboration, that we're not all working in our silos, that when these inquiries come in, that we're working with the planning department as well. So to date, in my 1 year, we've had one proponent reach out.
Okay. So for the gentleman, MXD, how are data centers cooled? Do they need water? Is it air cooled? How does it work?
I would just say, through the chair, that technology is changing quite a bit, rather quickly, and there's ways to recycle or reuse the same water. So although they do use a lot of volume of water, it's not necessarily all totally consumed and then going into drainage off-site. And also data centers are becoming increasingly more intense, both power intensive in terms of how much energy they use from BC Hydro, but also the megawatts or power output in terms of production or capabilities. So the same footprint of a building 5 or 10 years ago, how much it could accommodate is a different story now. There is more and more awareness to the sustainability needs of using less water, using energy more efficiently, and particularly as noted with the greenhouses, using surplus power for an efficient purpose.
Right, all right, appreciate that comment. So water would be an issue as well, because we've got 200-foot rock to come up from the bottom of that dam. Okay, so at this point in time, council, are you prepared? Are you comfortable with us sending this back to CED? They can approach the government, have a conversation as to what they need, bring it back to our Economic Development Commission for them to do a deeper dive. Mr. Session, do you want a resolution for that, or are you comfortable taking that away and dealing with it?
Through the mayor, it's entirely up to you guys how you want to formalize that. With the resolution, it does formalize the direction and the path that we are to take. However, if you just want to shoot it back as a suggestion, we can take that as well.
Okay, I'm going to make a resolution. So I make the resolution that you take this back, have a discussion with the provincial government regarding land acquisition, what they need from us, how we do it. And then I would like to have something to go to after that, after you have that information, to take that to our Economic Development Commission for them to weigh in, and also to look at what MXD has done here and just see what they think as far as some of the interests that are suggested. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
We need to narrow that down better than that.
I think it needs another paragraph or two for a resolution.
I thought you'd want that.
Yeah, I'm suggesting that just that the committee of the whole recommends to council that a report be referred to the Director of Economic Development for further review and consideration. Keeping, like, I think we're hearing that, but without getting into the details, so that we're relying on her expertise is what I would suggest.
Okay, so Councilor Palmer is going to put that resolution on the table.
Yeah.
You want to second that, Councilor Cherry?
I almost want to amend it. Sorry. I would just like, before seconding this, I want to make it clear that I would like feedback from the other departments that have said, have mentioned a number of the constraints here and what we should be focused on as part of that conversation.
Okay, so are you comfortable?
I don't know how to amend that in a motion.
That's just files through the commission.
Again, Mayor Souls through Councilor Cherry, there's a lot of ideas. We all have ideas, and I think staff are hearing those ideas.
So why don't we just funnel, we'll go through the commission and then it can come back to this table or go to the staff.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Yeah, so the motion that I had was that this be referred to the Director of Economic Development for further review and consideration. Because the reason I'm reluctant to start saying, okay, go to economic development, I anticipate that's going to happen. But the reason I'm not doing this, I'm really wanting the expertise to be with the director on that, saying, okay, this is how we're going to approach, here's some of the priorities.
So give them the parameters in which to build their report.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. The only question that I would have, and I'm, ultimately comfortable with the dialogue here, but there is what's not in that, we don't necessarily need it right now, might be when it comes to council, is timelines. I anticipate this after the election, not before. So it could be left ambiguous.
Good. good. I think that's a good way to do it. All right, is that clear as mud, Ms. Floyd?
It is, yes.
All right, any other comments, Councilor O'Malley?
Yeah, could we hear the resolution?
Sorry.
Ms. Delasella, could you read back that resolution?
Certainly. That the MXD report be referred to the Community Economic Development Director for further review and consideration.
Does that work, Councilor Orlando? Do you understand that?
For further consideration, I guess my question would be to staff, if possible, through the chair. And I guess in part to council as well, is in that referral for further review, is it clear to staff what that assignment is, I guess is the first part.
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor Orlando, it is clear. Taking back, listening to all the feedback, I think that the blanket resolution captures all of that. So we will take everybody's feedback and apply that to a new process on how we're going to gather all that information. And that will include collaborating, obviously, those discussions with the province, as well as collaborating across departmentally, so that everybody has their feedback captured.
Okay, good. Brief follow-up?
Yeah, I do have a follow-up.
Okay.
What would be next then? So following after it's referred back to ECDEV, what would be the next steps that the council through this resolution is hoping to gain? What would be council's next point? And would that be contained within the existing funding? Is the intent that it be contained within the existing funding that's left over at this point
That's our intention. And then for it to come back to council, we'll come back to council, probably not this council, after the election. Gives you some time to work on it, and then bring that forward. I don't think we're in a rush to make a decision on that sort of thing. You've got lots of things to work on. Does that make sense to you? Give me your feedback on it.
Through the chair, yes, your worship, I think the key component of what I've taken away is that the consultation with the government to understand really the details around the land file will require, I mean, the timelines are quite lengthy when you put in an application front counter to even initiate this process. So I think you guys, mayor and council, determined that it will stretch into new council, possibly even the new year. I can't give a defined timeline on how long it'll take to get those answers back from front counter, but we'll get this process started right away so that it starts moving in the right direction.
Okay, all right. So can you take down your screen because we've got a different motion now? Way we can see everybody. Any comments on the motion? Councilor Lund.
Yeah, I guess my question on the motion is how is it different from option one presented there? I think one of the main points might be looking at land acquisition, but in essence, the option one says look at this, discuss this with the provincial authorities, look at options for section 17, what we're going to do with that. And also look at resource requirements, organizational capacity, and financial implications. I kind of feel that option one is a bit more specific on what we're meant to do, and with option the one on the table, it does, I feel like, doesn't provide a next level of direction on what they're meant to do next. I would kind of not be sure what the report coming back would be. This one outlines it more, and just as a footnote, I would add through the community economic development process through the commission in developing this, we did have, for example, planning engineering staff do input as well as attend recent meetings outlining the infrastructure concerns, very, very real infrastructure and financing concerns for there. So my question would be, I guess maybe to the mover, what is different between what is proposed and what was outlined in option one.
So, Councilor Palmer, if I'm understanding your motion, it's a little more broad so that it allows the department to go where it needs to go to get things done. Am I correct on that?
Yes, Mayor Souls, it is broad because there's a lot of nuances that we talked, including the READY grant. So it's the grant, possible implications of impacts on other things. So by leaving it broad, it's not one specific action. It might be multiple actions. Furthermore, we do have a new staff person that, hopefully we're going to hear. Hopefully you're going to do amazing work. I'm hearing good stuff so far, but hopefully we're going to have amazing work coming back on understanding the complexity in leaving it at that broad sense. Specifically with option one, the idea just having canceling the section 17 in the phrase is very troublesome to me. So I would not be in favor of that motion. And also it maybe is too narrow for what recommendations the economic development director might be coming back to us. That's why.
Good. All right. Follow up, Councilor.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the fence. I think I would be happy with a bit more direction. When it says, for example, canceling section 17, it says evaluate acquisition options or canceling section 17, which is essentially keeping all of the options on the table in the referral for whatever they come back with. As, for example, section 17 was the city applying for that, and that's applied to Crown land within city limits. That in effect does block other options that somebody might come in with, and limits it. So I feel that since it was put on there in 2009, that it really has been something that maybe we're not aware of front of mind every day, but it is an action that we've taken, and that the next step is following up and engaging in processes like this and engaging the next steps. I feel, I don't know, in my view, I'm not opposed to the resolution on the table. However, I feel what has been needed since 2009 is the ability to take these next steps that are outlined there. Another significant, for example, issue or hurdle that has been identified by various proponents over the years is things like infrastructure questions, power needs questions, First Nations consultations is outlined in the report there. And what ends up happening when planning or CED gets approached with these ideas is we're sort of at the doorstep of this, and that we don't have the answers to those questions, and we can't meaningfully proceed with it, especially within the timeline of somebody who has a bunch of capital they're trying to burn up with this application. So I think that we might be revisiting the same things a few times if we keep it that general. I don't know if I will oppose it, but I would recommend maybe considering option one as something that provides more decision and direction to economic development staff to move forward.
All right, so Ms. Procession's made it clear she's got a pretty good grasp on what we've said around the table. So I think the motion on the table is applicable for this situation. Any other comments on the motion from any other council? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried. Thank you, Ms. Procession. Appreciate your time, Ms. Beckler and MXD. Thank you so much for all the work you've done. We appreciate it. Thank you for being here today. Great.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
All right, we're going to move on to departmental updates. Ms. Floyd, you have a second quarter summary for corporate.
Thank
or
you.
Someone else was going to take that. You're on it.
Well, thank you, Mayor Sells. I will start. I'm not going to share the corporate services portion of the Q2 summary because it's pretty standard. There's no real outliners or deviations. In terms of the corporate services outside of communications, we've really just been focusing on election preparation. But I can hand it over to the communications coordinator.
Ms. Williams, you're up.
Hello.
Something exciting coming up on the screen.
If you like stats and data. Yeah, I'm just gonna try and keep this short and sweet for everyone. Generally in social media, we've been, since my time here, trying to create more consistency with regular post series such as the Construction Corner. So at least every 2 weeks, informing the community about construction projects that they're going to run into that might delay them from work or just be generally an annoyance, and get on top of that. And our Blast from the Past campaign has continued to be really successful this year. Other repeated but less regular content that you might have seen last year that we're doing again this year is really trying to inform the community about the water regulations and emergency preparedness. So starting off on Facebook, you will notice, so just to reiterate here, these 2026 stats are Q1 and Q2. All of the other years are Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So that you can see that we have almost posted the same amount of posts as we did for the entirety of 2025 already. And an increase in posts there is creating an increase in engagement. You can see that our reactions are going as planned with the amount of posts that we've got, that our reactions are increased from Q1, again with the number of posts. And our link clicks are continuing to be really good. Little shout out to our new employee, Daniel Skolnick, who got the most interactions out of any of our posts in Q2. So evidently, not only we happy to have him, the entire community is. Over on Instagram, the log Unjam generated a lot of interest. You'll notice there that it has almost doubled our followers. So our follower number at the end of 2025 was 2,503. It is now 5,313. I want to just give you a handful of salt with that statement that we don't know how many of those are actual residents. That could be people far and wide who have just seen a really cool video of a log Unjam and started following us. I would not be surprised if our follower number decreases when they realize that we're primarily talking about property tax payments. So just a pre-episode, the Q3 stats might go down again after that. So the same effect, because these videos were taken by, fortunately we don't have anybody in IT, I believe our videos were taken by our GIS team with their drone outside of the national park. But we uploaded them to YouTube. So because we were using Instagram and Facebook, we were putting YouTube videos, people then got channeled or funneled over into YouTube, so that upped our YouTube subscriber number. We've got almost 300 new followers through this. Again, would preface that with we might see a decrease after the AC. Not that you guys aren't engaging, but once they realize it's primary council meetings, we may see the subscriber number dip a little bit. Pressure's on you guys to keep it interesting there. But also the wastewater treatment time lapses. Shout out to engineering for having that idea and doing the monthly time lapses. They are generating really good traffic there. They're also a useful resource when we're doing updates about the project. We've recently pushed out sort of an FAQ style, and that was great to have the time lapse to be able to share that as well for residents and people that were interested. Quick touch on newsletters, haven't done too much differently, so it's just pretty steady. No surprise, the top newsletter of Q2 is announcing the website upgrade and the logjam clearing. Very steady there. Yeah. And then over at Tort Revelstoke, when I started, there was a little bit of internal debate about whether we wanted to carry on using Tort Revelstoke, and I just encourage you to look at the total number of visits from when I first started to now. We've over doubled the amount of people, well, the amount of visits people are making to the site. So the more the city utilizes Talk Revelstoke as a public engagement tool, the more people use it as an engagement tool. So not only have we surpassed 2025 visits by 2026 Q2, we've doubled views of 2023 by 2026 Q2. Data shows that documents, FAQs, and videos are utilized by users, even if there isn't a survey option available. So that's just something to think about. And then over on our website, we've been consistently elevating the platform since I've been here and likely before that, though I can't speak to that. And a consistent increase, that consistent increase in elevation leads to a consistent elevation in engagement. Something to point out here is that, and it might seem very small, going from 43 to 48.5, but notice that again, 43 seconds was at the end of 2025, 48.5 seconds per user is at the end of Q2 this year, following the website launch. And that 5.5 second increase is across those 118,000 sessions. So it seems small, but it's spread out over a whole load of users, and that's the average. So all that to say, stats are improving since the website upgrade. You can already see that people are utilizing it more and spending more time on the website. Top pages of Q2, I think we should just say of all time is going to be the Aquatic Center because of the full schedule. The search function is now up there as one of the top utilized pages. And top searches, no surprise that pickleball is on there pretty regularly. And our new booking a court system that PRC launched this quarter also appeared on there. And then just a little look on our subscribers. That's where we're at this year. I don't have comparable data, but I can tell you all an increase in different ways and forms. I was going to put the alertable numbers on there, but then it skews the whole graph and these all appear really tiny and you can only see the alertable one because there's a lot more on there. So alertable is this day last year, we had 4,370 subscribers. As of today, we have 4,919 subscribers. So we're still getting the traffic that we want to see there. And that's it from me.
Awesome.
Thank you
Any
very much.
questions for Ms. Williams? Saying none, thank you. Appreciate your
Mayor,
time. Oh, Ms. Floyd.
Are you going to mention the social media for the other pages?
Oh, yes. Last quarter, I spoke to communications for our Fire Rescue Services Department and our Parks, Recreation and Culture Department. Those slides will not be included in this quarter, and it is no fault of the people sitting behind me. I have a glitch or a technical issue related to my Facebook at the moment and the access that I have. So any annoyance that you have directed at me wasn't their fault. I'm sorry. We're trying to get that fixed by the time we're reporting Q3 stats, and then we will include Q2 stats in those as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to development services, second quarter summary. Mr. Jeps, you're up.
Thank you, Your Worship. No formal presentation. One thing I would like to highlight is in hearing the feedback from the first round, we did try to break the stats down a little bit differently this time for you. So in that way, we do show a comparison of just Q2 on its own and where it was at compared to previous years, and then year-to-date comparison to previous years as well. So you will notice that there's 2 graphics per section for most of these sections. And again, that's just trying to make sure that we're getting the information in a manner that you'd all requested. So happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Any questions, Council?
Just appreciate the additional information. Works for me anyway.
Good. I think appreciate what you're doing in your departments. Seeing so one of the things that I wanted to ask about, we're gonna filter away from C-Click Fix at some point into something else. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, Your Worship. We are looking at, by the end of this year, hoping to be transitioning off. We have met with the providers to C-Click Fix and advise them of this transition period. We're in a bit of a hold pattern for about the rest of this month into next month, just finalizing onboarding onto the new software. Once we have that prepared, we will launch it publicly. We'll do a lot of information to the members of the public. We can even bring a brief presentation of it to the committee of the whole as well. And then we'll leave both in tandem for the remainder of this year to get the public used to these new processes. And we can have it set up where it does provide information to people through when they're submitting their complaint, of advising them of this transition from C-Click Fix into our new software. And then again, full transition out by end of Q4.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilor Plum.
Yeah, just further to that, note the C-Click Fix for 2026. Ironically, it's up dramatically. Okay, can you explain why? Or
Predominantly, it's been parking. This year has been a busy one for parking. You'll see the highest number. The skew of the numbers is on the parking side.
Right.
We're getting more complaints on the parking side, as well as with the snow transition a little bit strange this year in comparison to previous years. There was additional enforcement up at the resort as well. Most people, instead of the snow banks keeping people from parking on the sides of roads, we saw an increase in people parking, obstructing the roads, parking in the boulevards, things of that nature. And then again, just reflection of downtown as well.
Great. Appreciate that follow.
we'll see if there's a exponential increase in the parking complaints as we have more and more development. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Appreciate that. We're going to go on to fire. Chief Tarosa.
Worship, if council would like to see a full presentation, I've got one available for you. I can give you a quick summary.
Absolutely. Let's do full presentation and a quick summary.
Oh, and a quick summary. I don't know if I can do both of those.
How about just a quick summary?
Quick summary.
Let the deputy do it.
Well, I would, but do you want the quick version?
Yeah, let's
do
do the quick one.
All right. Q2, of course, is what we're looking at here. Our year-to-date numbers are increasing, so we have been able to maintain our authorized staffing levels during several operational challenges. And of course, you all know that Deputy Chief Jan Skolnick started on June 1st, and he is deep into his responsibilities already, doing an excellent job with the training, and everyone is really engaged with that. We had a really good turnout of our training last night. I'd want to quickly go over our numbers here. I'm hoping that somebody has a question that I'm going to answer before you get around to it. If you look at our maths not mathing on the Q2 for the team numbers there, that one, we had two people move from the auxiliary volunteers. One was hired and we did have one resignation. So there's a little discrepancy because they didn't resign. They were laterally moved across. So that's where those numbers are there. The important thing for this is that the numbers are steady. Our attrition is really come back up to where we want to see it. And we onboarded 6 new recruits. Fire inspections, I did want to touch on this one just a little bit. In the second quarter, we completed 137 inspections. 28 of those were the tier 1 inspections. And to follow up on that question there, one was non-compliant. And at the bottom there, it was not a significant life safety issue or anything requiring any orders. So essentially things like storage of materials in front of electrical panels that burnt out bulbs and things like that. So no significant life safety issues were identified on that. And we've got our other quarter stats there. Significant increase in calls in the last 5 years. So in Q2, we responded to 161 incidents compared to 79 incidents in the same quarter 5 years ago. And we're up 25% from last year. So that is, lockstep with the community is growing. There's more people here. People are calling us for lots of their unfortunate accidents. Fire investigations is another one. 5 reportable fires in this quarter. 3 of those were vehicle fires, $580,000 estimation. 1 outdoor fire estimated at $3,300 loss. 2 commercial structure fires estimated at $27,500 loss for a total of $614,500. And those 5 were just over $9 million in value. So quite a significant valuation on the properties and with the losses that were attached to this. So Deputy Chief has transitioned into his role quite well with the training. His initial focus has been improving the consistency in operations and supporting firefighters in scene. One thing I would like to note with the training, all active duty auxiliary firefighters have now achieved exterior, interior, or NFPA 1001 firefighter qualifications. So all active firefighters are recognized to the OFC level.
Wow, good.
So we keep our fingers crossed we don't lose any more. I'm actually not planning on recruiting this fall if we maintain these numbers here. So public education or engagement, pardon me. We had 6 child care presentations come through. So the kids come through the fire hall and they have some fun and look at the trucks and all that good sort of stuff. We did hold 9 fire extinguisher training classes specifically for city staff. So 9 separate events with multiple city staff at each of those. And we now have 7 of our firefighters are qualified child passenger safety seat inspectors to help those new and old parents, grandparents, with those car seat installations. RAMP, well, it's been a lot of work, a lot of work. One of the things I'd like to highlight for council is that we did submit our 2025 and 2020, that should say 2024 and 2025 annual reports to the CSRD from the executive committee. ESS has been quite engaged in training. They've got some new volunteers, so Ms. Jones is doing an excellent job with the ESS. And there was some additional Indigenous engagement through the working group. And currently, many city staff, senior city staff have completed the EOC Essentials and Higher training. So that's gives us a good broad foundation for anything that might come along. Fire Smart activities, again, they're continuing to build momentum. So the numbers do appear a little bit low, but it's still early in the season for people to get into Fire Smart. There was snow and wet for quite a while, so that was it just slows things down. But Fire Smart has been busy with additional things such as critical infrastructure Fire Smart assessments. So that's another section that isn't really captured here, but for example, the Greeley Water Treatment Plant has had an assessment done on it. What else can I tell you with that? I think that's about it. And I think key takeaways is that we're continuing to grow. Our calls for service are continuing to grow, and reflects council's continued support. Appreciate it very much. Happy to answer any questions. Maybe.
Council, any questions for Chief Jones?
I had just one question on the child car seat thing. So there was a little bit of a thing on social media about somebody needed some help. I'm just wondering, how does that look if somebody, do they need to book an appointment, or can they just arrive and if somebody's available, they'll help them out, or how does that look for those that are seeking help with child car seat?
Your worship, to Councillor Palmer, that's exactly it. So now we have 7 of the career staff who are qualified CPS. So it's a free service. now that we have numbers, we almost have someone on shift every day. So people can either call the fire station ahead of time to make an appointment so that they know that we're here, or they can also drop in. And if we're not on fire call, we're happy to assist them. So inspect their car seat, make sure it's safe, that it's up to date, meets all the requirements, that it's installed properly, and help ensure that they're putting the child in correctly and making sure that it fits the child correctly. And yeah, absolutely, free service.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Lund?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, just for the purpose of raising general awareness, I was just on the last slide there about Fire Smart rebates. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it works and what that's about, just so people listening in might have a better idea about it?
Your worship, to Councillor Orlando, thank you for that opportunity. So the Fire Smart rebate program is administered through our Fire Smart coordinator. It's funded by the UBCM grant for the Fire Smart. And so what folks can do, the property owners in Revelstoke can request an assessment on the property. So Ms. Markley will come out and do an assessment on the property, provide some guidance and recommendations for homeowners to improve the Fire Smart resiliency of their welfare resiliency of their property. So as they expend their own funds in making improvements to their properties, they could be, changing the gutters or screening in the deck and things like that. They keep track of all the time and their expenses. And then once they've got that project finished or a portion of the recommendations, they can apply to Ms. Barkley through the Fire Smart program. And they can qualify for, I believe it's up to $1,000. However, they must have spent a minimum of $2,000. So you can get up to 50% to a maximum of $5,000.
Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. We're going to move on to Parks, Recreation, and Culture, second quarter summary. Mr. Nadeau.
Thank you, Your Worship. Presentation, I'll just do a high-level overview and focus on some key stats. So this year we implemented a pickleball reservation system at the Columbia Park tennis courts / pickleball courts, and it's been really well received. So we're starting to track the number of hours that the courts are reserved for pickleball versus tennis. So you'll start to see that in the quarterly reports, with the first one reporting right now 332 hours reserved at that space. Most of our stats are pretty consistent, that being a new stat. With the community center, we had an increase in hour usage this year. We had the BC Home Show, which I think I saw most of you there. So that kind of transformed the space. It was pretty cool to see that over 3 days. So that was one of the bigger events, along with the Rod and Gun Club. That banquet usually hosts over 400 people, very well attended. Youth programs, a little bit of a drop this quarter compared to last year, and a lot of that had to do with the availability of the instructors for the programs. So notable for that. Adult programs, you'll see a significant spike in the stats, and I think that just reflects that we're tracking the stats better. We're including the time program participants along with the walking club, and then the Slow Pitch League, which we see about 620 adults participate in that program. Stats across the recreation facilities are all pretty consistent where they normally sit. You'll see there's a bit of a dip between Q1 and Q2, and that is common for this time of the year. We start to slow down at the aquatic center. In May, a lot of our visitor population leaves at the end of April once the ski hill closes. So the stats drop back there. And then our swim lesson stats, they float around the same number each year. The arena, pretty steady with our hour usage at the arena for Q2. Typically, this is what you see. We had increased dry floor use this year with thrash wrestling event. We had some ball hockey leagues start up for children and adult. which was pretty successful. And then parks resumed full operations in May. So we saw all the field users back on the fields. We had some summer camps and different events on the weekends. And then finishing off with the special events this year. So you have a list of events that took place up until now. So happy to answer any questions.
Excellent, Mr. Nuno. Any questions, Mr. Nuno? Yes, not. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to go on to strategic priorities by monthly update. Mr. CAO, Mr. Parliament.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Council, here is the latest version of the bi-monthly report. It's a little late, but it's here. There's a lot in there. I can answer any questions, and as well as department heads are available to answer any questions. I'm hoping a lot of this is not a duplication of what you've heard through the QT. If it is, you can ask for a revision, but it's a lot of information to share, but it gives you a snapshot of the day-to-day operations of all the departments across the city. I'll field any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Parliament? Yeah, I just have one question is, why is it taking forever for Mr. Black to get some of the roads back? Councilor Parliament. Our Councilor Parliament. Councilor Parliament.
Yeah, we look alike.
Thank you for the report. A question on HR. So my understanding, there's been some structural changes, and I was going to do an email, but I'll just put it here of an organizational chart. Maybe we can get an update of where that's at, because between fire services and some stuff, I think other public works, maybe get an updated organizational chart.
At a later date, you would like a chart or just an update on any changes recently? Organizational, is that what you're asking?
I'm assuming that there is an organizational chart and that HR would have that. So I guess that's what I'm asking for.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Parliament? Seeing none, thank you. Appreciate the update. We are done for the day, so I will ask for termination. Councillor Stapeners, Councillor Devlin, all in favor? Motion carried. We're done. Thank you all.